All right, parents, here we go again. It's the Ask Dr. Tony episode. This is the Experience Miracles podcast, and I'm your host, Dr. Tony Ebel, an expert in pediatrics, neurodevelopmental disorders, and drug-free, nervous system-focused healthcare. On this weekly episode, I'll be addressing the top questions on every parent's mind. If there's one thing we love and welcome, it's parents who never stop learning, asking the hard questions, and advocating for your kiddos like none other. So get ready for some real talk, real-life clinical and parenting experience, and real easy to understand answers that will help your family take action and get to that next level of health and healing. You ask, I answer. Let's dive into today's episode. Hey parents, here we go again, another episode of the Ask Dr. Tony Show, and I have been asked this question, a very similar or same format of it throughout my entire career, and I get so excited when I see the question coming and I hear it kind of like halfway through the sentence. I already start to answer enthusiastically, yes, we can help, and holy cow, I can't wait to tell you how much and how so. But the question is it too late to start? My son is 18 years old and has an autism. Back in the day, it might have been called an Asperger's diagnosis. My son is 22 years old and has tons of mental, emotional dysregulation challenges, anxiety, depression. A couple of cases have even come into the inbox, schizophrenia, and some significant challenges there. And so let's just talk about teenagers, not only, but really young adults. Let's honestly, and we're going to stay kind of in that range for the most part on this one, but let's talk about us, even as adults, and anybody and everybody whose nervous system is tapped out, stressed out, wound up, worn out. That's pretty much the majority of people today. But man, when that happens, when that is you, and you're 18, you're 19, you're 20, 21, you're in that transitional, massive, huge transitional stage of life, no longer a kid, no longer really even a teenager, but becoming a young adult, when your nervous system is super subluxated and super dysregulated, it absolutely wreaks havoc on quality of life. So let me come out of the gates and say this. When we do what we do, which is entirely about rebuilding, restoring nervous system regulation, and getting a vastly improved quality of life out of that, goodness gracious, we help kids, which are no longer kids at that stage. We help massively in this space. So I actually want to start with my story, and I want to be brief. I probably told it a few times, especially whenever I talk about ADHD and some of the raging bull stuff on this one. I probably sneak in a little bit of my story, but I did not start with anything to do with health whatsoever until God put me down this road of chiropractic. And so I can't exactly remember. I should actually call my first ever chiropractic office. Shout out to my first chiropractor, my first mentor, and the man who truly changed my life, Dr. Rick Albert, his amazing wife, Linda, and their team there in Ames, Iowa. Go Cyclones. It was either my sophomore year, my junior year. I believe it was my junior year, so I was probably 20, coming on 21 already, if not there. And so that means for 2 decades, I was a sensory, raging bull, subluxated, sympathetic dominant, all gas, no brakes kid that then became an all gas, no brakes college student, right? Now that worked out actually great for me in a lot of parts of my life because I was a farmhand. I was my dad's right-hand man. So the fact that I didn't sit still and get bored easy, well, I didn't get bored at all, was probably very useful to him. Working cattle, doing chores, walking beans. And I basically had a full-time, farmhand job while doing school, while doing sports, while riding three-wheelers, safety third. Fun little joke for farm kids. But the truth is, the raging bull components of my life are like my favorite parts of my life, right? This is why I have such an affinity and excitement to help kids of this age and to help anybody with a nervous system that does get wound up, because you can actually use it in a lot of places for a lot of good. But where it did not do me any good, it was paying attention in class, turning assignments in on time, and falling asleep. So I was constantly struggling in school, even though when I would sit down and take a test, I was the first one done every single time, and I could pretty much ace every single test. You give me a standardized test right now. I have an oldest one that's ready to take the ACTs, is taking them. She's crushing it. She's amazing. And I'm like, hey, do you think they would notice that I have a beard, a gray beard? Or do you think they'd let me come in there as a junior in high school and take it? I just love that stuff. And so I didn't start anything with nervous system focused chiropractic care, anything with health and wellness, until I had been, really you could call it, sick, stressed, and struggling neurologically for 20 to 21 years. And within a matter of a few adjustments In a few weeks, my entire life changed because my sleep challenges went away. And once my sleep challenges went away, which are neurological, okay, and then I could focus, then I could pay attention, then I had enough brain battery and brain energy to get back engaged with school. So my grades that had been plummeting went back into a great place so that I could get into chiropractic school, thrive in chiropractic school. I can't imagine having, to try and keep up with the chiropractic school curriculum. And then later on in life, being a dad, being a doctor, we own our own practice. So, you could technically qualify us as entrepreneurs. I couldn't imagine doing one of those things effectively if I didn't have my nervous system, my vagus nerve rocking and rolling nowadays. So I'm very passionate about the 19, 20, 21-year-olds getting started healing because that's when I started my healing journey. And so the second thing I want to share with this one is as in all cases, this is actually true for the 2-year-old and the infants and everybody else as well, but I think it really becomes true here. When we ask the question, man, do we think this could help my son? Do you think this could help our young adult child? We have to change what we're looking for in terms of the benefit and the whole purpose of healthcare. And so we talk about this a lot, and I feel like I should probably talk about it more. But the coolest thing about our approach is it's not treating anything. It's not curing anything. So no, a 21-year-old with anxiety or a 20-year-old with autism, those are not things at all that chiropractic and natural health and functional stuff is going to come in and say, hey, let's treat that. Let's cure that. See, when we look at different healthcare options, once you get outside the standard conventional medical box, you've got to be able to leave their philosophy, their paradigm, and their definitions of what better really means. You got to leave that in there, and you get a new one when you get to the other side, and you get to a different kind of healing, root cause, actual nervous system focused natural health healing, because our goals are not to eradicate disease. Our goals are not to get rid of bad things. Our goals are to reawaken. Our goals are to reconnect and restore and rebuild the good things. Our goals are to massively improve quality of life by massively improving neurophysiological function from the inside out. So the target and the goal that we set forth from care is not the standard healthcare goal where you fill out the intake paperwork and you say, this is still how most people fill it out, which is totally understandable. By the way, I'm saying this from a place of ridiculous understanding because we all have generations of looking at our health through a medical lens and a medical paradigm, which is diagnose, you put all the symptoms together, call it a diagnosis, give it a condition, and then try and target it and get rid of it, right? With outside-in interventions. And chiropractic and natural health, we don't need a diagnosis. We don't actually really even want one to help a child or young adult thrive because the goal of our care is to not get rid of the bad. The goal of our care is to add more good. And I know how simple that sounds, but I want you to know how profoundly effective and helpful that is to improving quality of life. So we've literally worded our paperwork to try and already kind of turn this conversation out of the medical lens and paradigm and into one where parents and patients, and obviously for 19-year-olds, 21-year-olds, we are having these conversations with them like, what parts of life that you want to go live are you missing out on? So our goals become gaining, getting things better, improving quality of life. Now, you kind of get to say the same thing in two ways here. What gets in the way of the quality of life of a 21-year-old struggling mightily with autism and anxiety and emotional dysregulation? Guess what they have challenges with too? The same things they have their entire life. Their gut is a mess. When your nervous system is sympathetic dominant, your digestive, motility, absorption, and detoxification pathways are completely just shut down and wrecked. And so when you have subluxation, sympathetic dominance, nervous system dysregulation, you're pretty miserable most every single day because your gut and your stomach is killing you. Again, I'm going to keep this one super simple. How have you ever felt when you had something bad to eat and your gut's a mess? Do you crush it at work? Are you super outgoing, socializing? You're like, I can't wait to go out and live life today when your gut's an absolute mess? No. So one of the first things we help these patients with in the best of ways is just calm the storm on the inside of what we would call their neurogut. And they respond incredibly well to that. Many of them forget to even bring it up because it's been so long that they've struggled with neurodigestive issues that it's just become normal to them. But that's common in these cases, not normal. Same with being sick all the time, with the immune system. What we find is that these patients have been sick, congested, colds, allergies. They're coughing all the time. And so what do? Well, they end up loading themselves up with over-the-counter and or prescription medications. Did you know that the majority of corticosteroid medications for respiratory and neuroimmune sort of challenges are stimulatory to the sympathetic nervous system, and the number one side effects that come with those medications are anxiety, rage, impulsivity, and anger, and then exhaustion as well. And guess what the number one thing that comes from exhaustion for every human's nervous system ever? Anger, irritation, hyperactivity, and anxiety. Ever been so tired and so worn out? How's your mood? How's your mojo? And so the immune system. So when we make adjustments for these guys, it's huge to clear their sinuses, get them breathing better. And then sleep. So many of them, like me, are still struggling massively to sleep. And one of the first, we always kind of joke, I think I actually made a whole episode about this, the side effects of chiropractic, for sure at this age. And it was the first thing that turned back on for me, because that's where it's really the foundation of nervous system and all body healing is sleeping. And so you get a stronger digestive system. You get improved immune system and respiration, so they're not sick all the time. You get better sleep. And then physically, this is what I rarely talk about on this podcast, even though I'm a chiropractor, and most people think of chiropractic limited to the physical nature. Well, guess what? When I was that age, my shoulders, my neck, I had so much pain. So now I was taking Aleve and Tylenol all the time, and that's destroying my gut and my immune system. So, right, this is a perfect storm for our 19-year-olds and our 21-year-olds. And guess what? That physical pain, now we got gut issues, immune issues. Now we're not sleeping. Now we've got tension headaches and back issues all the time. And now our sensory emotional system is completely wound up, because each of those things, I could take each of those four things we just covered that get off track and become really troublesome at that young adult age, from subluxation and nervous system dysregulation. And each of those, one for one, messes with the brain and is known to cause anxiety, mental health challenges, ADHD, social emotional withdrawal. And it really messes with brain function, because the brain and the body are connected together. The brain is regulating the digestive system. The brain is regulating, our sleep and our sensory. The brain is regulating our immune system and our inflammation. And the brain is regulating our muscles and our physical health. So if the brain all day, every day for 2 decades is getting bombarded with problems from all four of those systems forever, the brain's a mess. And that's where the anxiety comes from. So once we get the neurosoft signs, once we just get the basics of neurophysiological function back on for your young adult kiddo, if we just did that, to use a minimizing term intentionally, what do you think is going to happen to their anxiety? It's going to go down. And when their anxiety goes down, their happiness, their joy, their social engagement goes up. Because when you feel like crap all the time, physiologically, you then feel like crap mentally, emotionally. So what do you do with life? Withdraw, stay home, hide from it. And that's the stage of life where what the brain wants to do and is actually programmed to do, and we always talk about with our teenagers, young adults, probably a little too much, right? When it's going, is to go out in life full send and figure it out and experience it. And we know for these families, because if your kiddo is 22, well, then you're no longer 22, right? Just by how the math works out. So for you, you're looking for a different stage of life, maybe for it to be a little bit easier, where you don't have to be the calming, regulating, transitioning, coaching voice every single day for your child. So this stress that is still continuing to bury our kids at 18 to 22 and young adults, and again, I'm just picking age ranges. It is the story for anybody at that, kind of stage of life with nervous system dysregulation. But it really, really now limits the quality of life for families, for parents as well, who at that stage of life want to be going to do the things that come with that stage of life. So when you get this function restored to the nervous system, you see it go through the healing stages just like for younger kiddos. But a lot of times, actually, for this young adult age group, it can actually work faster because one, they're done growing, and two, this might be very psychosomatic, but it's very true. And I've seen it with my whole career. They're just done feeling like crap. They know this sucks. There has to be a better way. They know there's life out there. I want to go after it. But it's all this subluxation, dysregulation. And again, in the medical world, it comes with a diagnosis. And you may think, it's their Asperger's holding them back. It's their anxiety holding them back. It's their autism holding them back. Yeah, technically, by definition. But the most important thing you can get out of this one is get that definition. And I'm sure you want to and have already in your heart. Remove that definition from what we're going after. Remove that diagnosis and that label that is looking to limit your child's quality of life. Remove that from our target, from our lens, and say, let's get into nervous system regulation and neurophysiological function. And when we do, it's these patients who have been so sick and tired of being sick and tired and socially withdrawn that I see take life by the horns. I could go on and give you name after name after name of patients. Actually, I got my start not only as a patient in this way, I didn't get to see young kids for the first 3 years of my practice. It was the literally 80 to 90 to 100% of my perfect storm patients when I first started to figure out these protocols were 19, 21, older parents bringing them to me saying, we've tried every medication, every diet change, every supplement. All the way back then, this was already the case. Please help. You're our last resort. You're our last hope. And these kids are now college graduates, married, full-time jobs, thriving. I can give you a whole lot of patients whose life was supposedly not supposed to go to college, not ever move out of their home, not ever get married and hold a full-time job. And they didn't start until, metaphorically, that age and that stage of life. And they are thriving. So I'll leave you with this. It is never too late to start with nervous system focused chiropractic. And you will never really almost believe the transformative miracle stories that young adults have had and continue to have every single day inside PX Doc's offices. And so we don't know the full runway and the full potential of their healing. Every kiddo is different. So some will see a version of quality of life that just makes day-to-day so much better. And others will come fully, incredibly, unbelievably out of the storm. And a couple of them have even gone on to chiropractic school and are now serving alongside of us as PX Docs. And I just reached out to two of them to actually schedule them for an interview on the podcast because as I got ready to tell this neuroscientifically true story of how kids, young adults heal with this care and how it's not too late, I thought, let's bring a couple of these rock stars on and have them tell their story so you can hear it directly from them as well. So I'm glad this question came in. I hope it keeps coming in so we can continue to now send this episode and say, never too late. We got you. Here's how. Let's get started. So if you have a child, if you have a young adult, if you are that patient at that age listening to this and you haven't got started yet, get to the website, get after it, get to your local PX Doc and get started. And if you have started and you're just slowly starting to heal this neurostorm and come through the other side of the neurostorm, stick with it, stick with it, stick with it. It can take time to unpeel and unpack these many layers of nervous system stress and dysregulation that have been in there, but we can get them out of there. God bless. Be well. See you all on the next one. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. Do you have a question that you would like to submit? Either send it to support@pxdocs.com with the subject Ask Dr. Tony, or head on over to our socials @PX Docs, where you can submit your question in our stories every single week. Every kid counts and every family counts, so let's leave no questions left unanswered. If you loved this episode and you want to help us reach more kids, we would so appreciate if you left a review and a rating on your favorite platform. God bless. Be well. We'll see you on the next one.